All right. We're finally going to do it. Let's get into it. I started watching One Piece. I don't know how long ago. I don't know the exact date. I didn't really plan on keeping track of it the way I want to now. But I started watching it. And I have thoughts. Because I get it. I get it. That's the first thing that comes to mind when now that I have made it. I don't want to, I barely scratched the surface, and we'll get to that. But I finally get it, why people like One Piece so much. And I didn't think I would get it, but goddamn, I mean, it's the only anime I've watched since I started it, really. I mean, I've dabbled in some other anime, you know, some newer stuff here and there, but it's like when I lay down at night and it's time to unwind with some anime, it's just so easy to put on One Piece, and it's just drawn me in. So we're utilizing this random article from Crunchyroll. I had the wiki up, but this broke it down in a way that I think would be better for this little chat. But we've made it. I don't know why I say we. I've made it past the Alabasta arc. The first few episodes aren't even. First few hundred episodes aren't even that good relatively, and that's. I've heard that. I've heard that, and I kind of want to get into when I, decided that I was in, because I really wanted to give it a chance. I really, really wanted to give it like a good, proper chance and let it grow on me in a way, and not necessarily, and I'm trying my best not to have like a sunken cost thing going on either, because I've dedicated a pretty decent amount of time watching it. I've also I haven't skipped any filler. I've watched every episode 1 through 130. Now, if we go all the way back here, I will say it was a little rough. All right, it was a little rough. In these, Romance Dawn arc, Orange Town arc, Syrup Village arc, I felt like I was watching a children's cartoon, because I was watching a children's cartoon or a children's anime. It just felt very. It felt like when I was a kid and I would turn on Cartoon Network and they would have Yu-Gi-Oh on, or Pokemon, or just fill in the blank, any sort of more children focused anime. But they introduced Sanji, and he still probably is one of my favorite characters in the I guess I've never had to say this out loud, Bharati arc. And I like cooking, and I like chefs. I'm really into like cooking content, and the idea of like, yeah, like I never really thought about it, but like pirates need chefs, and there's like pirate restaurants out on the ocean. That was quite like, it was like a revelation to me in a way. I was like, oh yeah, like duh, you need pirate chefs. And Sanji's like a cool dude. He's like badass with his kicks. He's got long, sexy legs, and he's also kind of like a womanizer a little bit, but in like a dumb way, in like a dumb old anime way, where he just gets like beat over the head for being horny. And I, for one, still find that funny. It's him just swooning over like every woman and just getting denied every time is I personally think is funny. So Sanji was when I was like, okay, this character's cool. Like, obviously, you meet Zoro pretty early. He's cool, but he's a little mysterious. you know, I don't have the context of some of the way later on shit. Because I know let me explain. Since I've gotten really into One Piece, I've started like following a couple of Twitter accounts, you know, watching One Piece TikToks, you know, and so I start to get potentially spoilers, but it's almost like it's so far like in the fucking future for me that I have no idea what's going on. But Zoro and like everyone develops so much, but right now to me Zoro is just like badass quiet guy, but Sanji is like funny, he's got sexy legs, and he can cook, and to me that's really cool. I like that he can cook, and I like his dream, like his goal, because early on they all have like their goal that they're each, you know, setting out for. Like Luffy wants to be the pirate king, and you know, I don't recall what Zoro's is to be like a master swordsman or the best swordsman, and Sanji wants to find the deep blue, or what the fuck is that thing called? The Grand Blue, whatever. It's like a place with a bunch of fish because he just wants to cook cool fish. That's pretty neat to me. Silly part is that the crew isn't even complete until relatively recently. Wow. So it's taken them a couple 100 episodes or 1,000 episodes to get to that point. That's wild. Oh, they had random people. Okay. See, I mean, that's surprising to me. That's definitely surprising to me. So yeah, around the Bharati arc is when I was like getting a little tickled, you know, like, you know, we're not that far in, only 30 episodes. And then you meet Nami, which I like Nami. She's cool. I kind of like that she betrayed them at first. Like that's kind of neat. It's a little character development, you know. And it was also surprising. I didn't expect it. I mean, Nami is, you know, her backstory was the first time I realized that the show can get pretty dark, and that, you know, her whole island is just being taken over by the fishmen, and she just became one of them so that she could just steal as much money as possible so she could free her island from the fishmen. It's an honorable, you know, I suppose an honorable thing to do. I guess you're stealing. You know, I get it. It was, you know, heartbreaking to see her lose all of her money to the fishmen, and it was the first time that I was like, you know, really happy to see Luffy do what he does. That's where I feel like you start to really see him shine. I mean, he's like OP and like funny and strong from the start, but then in the Arlong arc, he beats the fishman's ass, and Nami's very grateful, and you know, the people from the island, you know, they're free from the fisherman's reign, and it's like, you're like, okay, they can hit some dark tones a little bit here. I wasn't expecting that, because early on, like I'm saying, I feel like I'm watching a fucking kids show. I was trudging through like slapstick comedy, which, you know, it's not the worst in the world. I watched it, I got through it, but it wasn't thrilling. So this was when I was like, okay, they can get a little serious. It wasn't too bad, but they can get a little serious with some more serious storytelling, some more dark undertones. And I appreciated that. I was getting more into it. And the characters are likable. You see Sanji like swooning over Nami a bunch. Zoro is still, you know, being mysterious and badass, and Luffy is just like a treat. I didn't know how I would receive him, if I'm honest. I wasn't sure if I would find him annoying, which I tend to find anime characters annoying. Like, ask Ace if he's in the chat. He recommends so many anime to me, and I watch them, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's fucking annoying. Like, this main character in this isekai or whatever the fuck he's trying to get me to watch these days just screams and is obnoxious and doesn't, like, you know, it just doesn't feel like they have any value, which may be a harsh thing to say, but Luffy doesn't rub me off in the wrong way like that, and I don't quite know why. I think he's like just charming enough, and just kind of, yeah, just charming is the word that comes to mind. I find him charming in a very surprising way. I did not expect to find Luffy charming, but we do. So, you know, kind of, yes, Black Clover. That's, I mean, come on, dude. He just, it's like the, it's all he does. It's all he does is yell. Yeah, I couldn't get past it. I'm very picky about anime, which is why I'm floored to talk about this, because I didn't expect to like One Piece this much and to be this into it. Anyway, kind of moving forward through the arcs here, you know, you meet Buggy. I wasn't, you know, super thrilled with him as a character, at least this far in. Then you get to Lounge Town, where you meet Smoker, and, you know, then you kind of start to figure out this more of the scale of the world. You figure out more of the scale, and because you meet Captain Smoker, you really start to figure out, you know, the bounties and just how crazy in terms of like the strength of the pirates that are out there are, and it seems unlimited scaling that the show kind of portrays, in terms of like, wow, there's some like pretty badass people out there and out on the sea. And Smoker is a pretty fucking cool character, in my opinion. Like, I found him pretty badass. Just kind of moving forward here, I'm just kind of skimming these arcs here. Where do we meet Chopper? We have Lounge Town, then the Warship Island. That was a filler arc. I watched all of this shit. And then, oh, okay, so here we go. So this is when, right? Isn't this when they get into the Grand Line? Yes. In Reverse Mountain arc. I don't know any of these arcs by name, so I'm just kind of reading them to figure it out. So the Reverse Mountain arc is when they get into the Grand Line, and this is when I was like, okay, we're 62 episodes in. I feel like we're finally getting to like the first, for some reason my brain said like first raid boss. You know, things are finally starting to get a little serious, a little more serious. You know, we're getting into the Grand Line. This is where, up until now, the show is saying, like, all the shit's going down here. Grand Line is where all the serious pirates are. All the OP pirates and sea creatures and all that. So I was looking forward to finally getting to the Grand Line. It was quite the journey getting to that point. I mean, it was 62 episodes. It felt like a lot longer than 62 episodes because, I mean, you know, you're going through a lot here in terms of, there's still some of that early anime schlock, which, you know, it was definitely a bit of a grind, but we got there. So you get to the Grand Line and you meet the giant whale, which was just like, what the fuck? There's like a guy living inside the whale. It's weird, but I like the weird, and that's something I want to say as well. Is I like the weirdness of One Piece. I like the weird looking characters. The weird art style has also grown on me. The art style definitely was another thing I was concerned about. It's not at first glance, it's not my favorite. It still isn't my favorite, but it's grown on me. I find it strange and I like it. So you get into the Grand Line, and that's when Nami also gets the what's it called? I'm seeing if it says it in this article here. It's like the navigator thing that tells you, because you kind of have to bounce between islands, and the little compass like points you in the right direction. So this is when she gets that, because yes, the log pose. Yes, that's when she gets the log pose, and that's how you're supposed to navigate through the Grand Line. And it's just nice to see, like, you know, holy shit, there's like giant creatures in here, and it's insane. And it ramps up a bit more, not that much more, but a bit more. Kind of moving forward here. The little garden arc is, you know, this is just one of the islands that they are stopping off at, and they meet the giants. I found this, you know, a little heartwarming. It seemed like I was starting to kind of predict a little bit how the show was going to break down things, you know, just kind of like each island was going to be like its own kind of quest line. And I was like, oh, okay, like I hope that this doesn't get repetitive. Now that they have this log pose, are they just going to go from island to island, and each island has like a wacky character or characters on it, and they're just going to interact with them and then move on, or maybe fight some guy, some, you know, big bad, save the city and move on? I wasn't quite sure. I was a little skeptical around this point, but I continued onward. And I'm going to say that I think Drum Island and Chopper's story is when it, like, cemented for me that this story can be more than just Luffy bouncing around and like killing big bads, because Chopper's backstory was like genuinely like really well written and just absolutely depressing. I was surprised how depressing it was. I was actually like emotionally affected. I wasn't like sobbing or anything, but it was fucking sad. And I like Chopper as a character a lot because of all the context you get around him. You know, the turmoil on the island itself, whatever, it felt pretty generic. It's kind of it was kind of weird in a way. And also felt a little like, had a little bit of like a, if I can channel like my inner Hassan Piker a little bit. I had like a little bit of an anti-capitalist or maybe a little anti-imperialist, no lyrics in my music, kind of message to it, because the big bad who I'm Wapol, yeah, the fucking guy who can munch on anything. That guy can just like bite through a jawbreaker, or, you know, or a fucking boat or a building or whatever. He like took all the doctors. I'm like, what? Like, you took all the doctors, and now everyone has to go and pay like a crazy amount just to get healthcare, which is so strange. Soccer, but a very relevant meme. I mean, yes, unironically, yes. Unironically, this is true. So, yeah, it started to feel a little more political in this arc. It started to feel like a lot more serious. Chopper's backstory is just fucking gut-wrenching. You know, he's Dr. Curia, his just this failure who tries everything in his power to be a good doctor, but just kind of like sucks. But that's because he's like more experimental, and he takes in Chopper and heals him up and teaches him how to be a doctor, and the witch on the island and her connection with Chopper after Dr. Curia is killed, and she continues on teaching him how to become a fucking medicine practitioner. Medical medicine. Am I just making shit up? It's just, you know, Chopper just went through a lot. You know, homie went through a lot. His mentor was killed. He was hunted down, and he just kept fucking fighting through it. And finally, like at the end, when they're leaving, and Luffy and all of them are like, yeah, we need a doctor. Like, come on, Chopper. And he's like, no. Like, I want to, you know, I want to chill here. And the witch, like, in like kind of a fucked up way, rejects him. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. You know, go explore the world and become a better doctor. It was when I was like, I started to, I guess, probably started to develop an emotional attachment to the show. If I can analyze a little bit here, this is probably when I started to develop a little bit of an emotional attachment to the show. I'm also 78 episodes in, which isn't a lot, but to me it's a lot. I don't really watch anime like this. So to me, 78 episodes in, you know, 78 to 91 episodes in, that's a lot. I was pretty proud of myself for making it this far. And just kind of looping back around to what Asaku said, several places are world building. That is also, you know, because I mentioned I was a little skeptical because, you know, I was worried that it was going to get a little formulaic of just them bouncing around at islands and fighting a big bad. But the world building on those islands was really good. The world building in general is incredible. I think it's its strongest suit, actually. If I had to point one out, I think that the world building is just like top tier. It makes me want a One Piece like MMORPG because I want to explore it. I want to go and explore the One Piece world. And I can't really say there's many anime that make me want to explore their world. You know, I can't really think of many that make me want to explore their world. Oh, and I'm sure. And there's always like the meme where it's like, you know, the guy like, oh, and it's like One Piece fans when the character that was referenced in episode 30 is mentioned in episode 850. You know, I'm sure everything kind of loops back around and, you know, all that. I'm sure. I'm just saying this is my perspective as a new watcher. You know, in the moment, what I was thinking. But then finally, the Alabasta arc and, you know, Princess Vivi's whole story. I'm gonna need to take a sip of water. I know I just said that I think Drum Island is what cemented it for me, but after completing the Alabasta arc, this is what made me tell myself, I'm not gonna make a claim that I'm going to 100% guarantee I'm gonna watch every episode of this anime now, but this has pretty much got me there. This has pretty much got me there. The Alabasta arc, up until this point is like peak. It's like peak as fuck for, you know, this stage of One Piece that I'm at. It introduced a lot more complexity than I thought. I think Crocodile is an incredible villain. He feels truly evil. Like, you know, you meet some anime villains and you're like, okay, it's a little corny in their villainy. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, whatever. But Crocodile is like actually like he is actually just, what's the word I'm looking for? I almost just said the word drowning, and drowning isn't a verb. He is just causing the crumble of a society by denying them water. And that it is just seems particularly evil to me. And then, I mean, I'm kind of jumping the gun here. His whole plan is to cause a rebellion the rebellion goes and attacks the kingdom, and then he's going to blow up the kingdom with the rebellion that he started inside of it while both factions are fighting. Like, what? That's so, like, you would think, you know, a typical villain would be like, yeah, let me just utilize this rebellion army always and, you know, have them on my side. But no, he's like, I'm gonna blow up everyone. I'm gonna kill everyone and take this bitch over. That's just fucking insane. He's like actually insane. And very early on in the Alabasta arc, Crocodile also, you know, it's kind of the issue with watching an anime this old, you know, Luffy isn't going to go anywhere, but he fucking kills Luffy. He doesn't actually die, but, you know, they portray it as Luffy gets, like, fucking skewered. And you're like, oh my god. This is the first time I've seen Luffy eat shit. It is the first time I've seen Luffy eat shit. And he certainly does. He gets skewered, and this is a decision that, you know, the writers made that I think is a very good one. It takes Luffy out of the equation for a very large chunk of the Alabasta arc, and I think this was like a really good decision. I don't know if that's a hot take. I don't know what is a hot take and what isn't a hot take when it comes to One Piece. I don't know really much about like the general consensus around the arcs and stuff. I've gotten into the One Piece community a little bit, but not enough to know what people really think about the different arcs and stuff. I doubt anyone really even discusses this early shit that much anymore because, I mean, as Asaku said, like, there's things are just so crazy currently in One Piece that, like, why would you go and talk about something that was, like, 900 episodes ago? But I think it was a really good writing decision to have Luffy, like, out of the equation because you get to see everyone else shine. And they all have their own interactions, their own fights. They all handle things in their own unique ways. You know, you get to see how Chopper and I'm blanking on his fucking name. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Oh my god, how can I fucking blank on his name? Usopp, one of the main characters. Don't know why I forgot his name. You get to see how Chopper and Usopp handle their conflict. You get to see how Zoro handles his own conflict, how Sanji handles his conflict, how Nami handles her, you know, like, it's just, you get to see everyone shine individually and really their strengths and weaknesses, of course. And I liked that Luffy just wasn't there to save the day for everyone. Like, you get to see people get, like, fucked up. Like, Usopp gets fucked up. Zoro, I mean, they all eventually win their battles, but they all get, like, you know, on the bleeding edge of pretty much losing. I never expected any of them to completely lose because there are still 1,000 more episodes to go. But, you know, it's still, even knowing that, it was intense. Even for me, it was an intense moment. Yeah, it let everyone shine. It let everyone shine in their own way. And the seriousness was appreciated. Everyone takes L's, and it's not rarely. Yeah, that is what I gathered. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. And the I know I'm like jumping all over the place in this arc. I'm not really going in any sort of order. Like, fuck, I'm so bad with names. The bird guy that's Vivi's friend, the bird guy, I'm gonna call him that. When he, you know, like I mentioned earlier, Crocodile's whole plan is to shoot this bomb into like the battlefield and blow everyone up, and they're desperately trying to get to this bomb so they can, you know, either, you know, defuse it or get it away. And Birdman the rapper, he comes and sorry, that was a dumb joke. He comes and picks up the bomb last second and like flies up in the air with it as high as he can go and fucking explodes, and like Vivi's childhood like friend and protector is exploded in the air to protect the whole like country. Like, oh my god. Like that's some serious shit. And I went into the show and I'm like, wow, this is a fucking kids show. I'm like, this man just sacrificed himself. Homie just blew himself up. It was just like, it was just intense and very well written. And eventually Luffy comes out and kicks ass and he does his Luffy thing. I will say, and I'm gonna check, I wrote some notes on my phone just to double check, make sure I've covered everything. I think that, you know, Luffy appears very dumb a lot of the time, but I think that he is a very, and this might be an obvious statement, but I was surprised when I came to this realization. He's a very like smart fighter in terms of like he uses a lot of deception and, you know, he subverts expectations. Like, that's the exact note I wrote. Like, he will subvert expectations and do shit that you wouldn't expect. And, you know, even I would, like, he would do, you know, use a move or utilize the environment in a certain way, in a way that I didn't expect at all. And it just feels smart. Like, he fights. A lot of time it's like, you know, Monkey Man go crazy, but other times it's like, wow, that was actually like a really well thought out move. And I really realized that in some of the fighting that he did with Crocodile. And then at the you know, at the end of the arc, you find out that Vivi doesn't you know, doesn't join the Straw Hats, at least at the point that I'm at, and wants to stay with her kingdom, which I didn't think Vivi was going to stay with them. It's why would you go through all of that to save your kingdom and then leave? It just didn't seem like something like that didn't make sense to me. Like, you go through all that and you like stay. So she stays. Maybe she shows up later, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts. I around here, Drum Island and Alabasta arc is what really cemented my appreciation for the show and my willingness to keep watching. Now you could kind of loop around to the discussion of, can I recommend this to anyone? It's hard to say. If you're okay with slogging through like old anime bullshit, then yes, I recommend it. And I think, personally, I think it's worth it to get through to get to the good shit. And I know I haven't even really hit the good shit, which honestly makes it even better of a case for someone like me who was willing and able to get through the early anime bullshit. Because I know it just gets better. And it already feels pretty damn good. At least with these, like I mentioned, with these last two arcs I just got through, the Drum Island arc and the Alabasta arc. That would be my case for it. But if you're sensitive to that, you know, if you're just really not in, you know, you have other shit to watch, just watch the other shit. If you have the time, if you're willing to, I would say it's worth it. The world building is incredible. The characters are all very likable. I honestly would say that the only character that I don't really like that much, and that's not even a case of I dislike them, I just don't like them that much, is Usopp. I still find him, you know, he's just like the weakling, but he has moments of greatness. I see his appeal. He has moments of greatness, but you know, overall he's like low tier compared to everyone else that you see. Also, I would say another weak point is some of the villains early on are just pretty uninteresting, just generic evil bad guys. They're not all that interesting at all. It was more of, you know, the protagonists and the world building and all that I was hooked onto rather than the villains up until the Alabasta arc with Crocodile. Crocodile was the first villain that I was like, oh shit, this guy's badass and he's really evil. Then I was like, okay, he's pretty fucking, you know, that this shit, yeah, this is a bad dude. Everyone else is just like henchman style villainy. So I think we'll leave it at that. I think we're going to continue doing updates like this every time I feel like I've hit like a major plot point or a major, you know, hit a major milestone in my experience. But yeah, I think this will become kind of a continuing series where I just kind of give my thoughts, and maybe the end of the series will be when I've given up on the show and I can explain why, or the end of the series will be when I'm caught up in 20 years. I don't know. I've gotten through a decent chunk of it in an all right amount of time, so I think we'll call it there, though. That is my experience with One Piece so far.